all this talk of illegal migration in Europe, in the United States, it ultimately comes down to a contest of what is governance. Who is governed? Which countries are governed well? And if so many of these countries around the world are incapable of governing themselves, then it's time for us to just put the imperial hat back on to say, we're going to govern those countries if you're incapable of governing yourselves, because enough is enough. We're done being invaded.
Because our own national security risk is at stake.
Exactly.
National security interests are at stake.
You can say that about pretty much all of Africa. They're incapable of governing themselves and benefiting their citizens because the governments there are all about looting and pillaging and lining their pockets and going shopping in Paris instead of actually
making
their country better.
People on the left are going to watch this. They're going to say, wait a minute, Erik Prince is talking about being a colonialist again.
Absolutely. Yes. Enough. Because...
Who the hell is this guy? His name is Erik Prince. He is an American businessman, a former U.S. Navy SEAL officer, and the founder of the private military company called Blackwater. So basically, if the CIA want to do their dirty work around the world, these are one of the guys that they turn to. So I have a question for you, Mr. Erik Dean. Can America govern themselves? And please, for God's sake, let's not act like America is the best thing that's happened to the world, or America is one perfect country that everything is rosy and they have no problems. You also have a corrupt government. You have national debt, racism, you have homeless people, you have immigration crisis. I can keep going on and on and on. So, Mr. Let us do our imperialist heart. How do you reconcile this with your ridiculous proposal? You guys are not good role models at all. You have your own problems too. And of course, yes, we have clueless African leaders that don't know what they are doing. They are also part of the problem. Absolutely, yes, they are true. That's true. And I agree with him on that. We have people in Africa that are suffering, people in Africa that don't even have water to drink or good food. And do they deserve better? Absolutely. We have clueless leaders that don't know what they are doing. They have no idea how to govern or how to rule. And they are also part of the problem. I agree with you on that. But to say that they are the only problem in Africa is absolutely false, because you guys are also part of the problem. So to come here and say the problem in Africa is only caused by Africans is absolutely false, because you guys are also part of the problem. Like I said earlier, are there people that don't have food to eat in Africa? Absolutely true. That's very true. Do they deserve better? Yes. But the better is not a white man coming to save Africa again. Because the worst thing that happened to Africa is colonialism. Do you know how much impact colonialism had on Africans? Do you know? Most of the problem in Africa right now is caused by colonialism. I mean, to this date, we still have about 14 African countries remitting over $500 billion to France each year. Who killed Gaddafi? It was the CIA and NATO that killed Gaddafi. Why? Because they said Gaddafi cannot rule his people. Even Obama himself, he came out and he confessed and said this was one of the biggest mistakes he made during his tenure. Before Gaddafi died and after Gaddafi died. Who killed Patrick Lumumba in Congo? It was the CIA, of course. So we have African leaders that try to change something. So to come here and say that Africans cannot govern themselves is absolutely false, because we have African leaders that try to change something, but it's either they are being silenced or through the help of the media they are labeled as terrorists, and here comes the white man again to come and save the day. And what happens after the white man leaves? The countries are never the same again. We've seen this so many times.
Some people who have the audacity to tell us that we are poor countries. They are taking trillions out of Africa every year. And what is the African doing? Like an obedient, programmed black man, we just give in. And then one might say, why is it that African leaders haven't done anything about this deplorable situation? Well, let me tell you, my brother and sister, they have tried. Documented to this day, 22 coups where leaders were assassinated. The first 7 When they decided they were pulling out of the CFA and that they're going to print their own money, they were assassinated. Every time an African leader has tried to do what's best for their country, they were assassinated. Majority of them aided by France, who felt that when there was a natural resource discovered in one country, they wanted to create a coup. So while the country is thrown into a civil war, they're siphoning the natural resource.
How do you reconcile that, Mr. Colonialism? How do you reconcile that? Don't even get me started on the Middle East. You guys have destroyed that region. Why? Because if there's anybody or any leader that decides to do something contrary to what the West wants, they find a way or a justification to invade that country, topple that leader, and then put someone else that's going to do their bidding. We've seen this playbook so many times. So how dare you propose this solution, knowing how much negative impact you guys have caused around the world? And I'm not here to justify or to say that the problem in Africa is only caused by the West. No. We have African leaders too that don't know what they are doing. We have African leaders that are extremely corrupt. But they are not the only problem we have in Africa. So for you to suggest something like this just shows me that you don't care about people in Africa. The only thing you care about is for things to remain the way Africa is, so that you guys can remain poor. You think we don't know this? You think this is a mistake? Africa is not designed by mistake to be like this. It's strategic. For the West to remain rich, Africa has to remain impoverished. And they will do anything possible to keep Africa the way it is. So don't come here with your white man savior mentality to come and say, yeah, Africans cannot govern themselves, so you need a white man to come and take over to teach them the stupid democracy. So instead of this ridiculous proposal that you're suggesting, why don't you talk about the influence of the West in Africa? Why don't you talk about the Western leaders leaving Africans alone to decide who they want to be? Why don't you talk about the Western politicians leaving Africans to decide who they want to be their leader? Don't interfere in their election. Let them decide who they want to lead them. Look at the last Nigerian election. That tells you everything you need to know about the influence of the West and why they will do everything humanly possible to keep Nigerians or to keep Africa the way it is. Look at the state in Nigeria now. Or why don't you discuss about France not collecting colonial money from their former colonies? Why don't you talk about that? $500 billion each year. Do you know how much impact that's going to have on the continent? Why don't you discuss about that? Why do we have to talk about recolonization? Why don't you put pressure on the Western leaders to back off and leave Africa alone? Let the African people, let them decide for themselves who they want to be in power. But no, you can't let that happen. Because you know that if that happens, Africa is going to break from the shackles of the West, and Africa is going to become a global force. And you guys are scared of that. So instead, you rather control the typical playbook of America. Let's go and control them again. Because you know that China has now become a global force, and the Chinese are doing things differently in Africa. You guys are slowly losing the grip on Africa because you need Africa to survive. You know this, and because Africans are waking up now. So many Africans are waking up. You can see Burkina Faso, look at Mali, look at Niger. It's going to keep going like that. More and more African countries are going to keep growing.
Interest rates.
You can say that about pretty much all of Africa. They're incapable of governing themselves and benefiting their citizens because the governments there are all about looting and pillaging and lining their pockets and going shopping in Paris.
Yes, I agree with him on this. Let's stop the foreign aid to Africa because it's not benefiting Africans. It's only the elites that are benefiting from this foreign aid. So stop it. Stop sending money to Africa. Leave them alone. And this is my message to Africans too. Let us hold our government accountable. Let's hold our leaders accountable because we are also responsible for the state of Africa. We can blame the West all we want, but we are also we are also responsible for the state of Africa right now. We need to start holding our leaders accountable. When it's time for election, we need to come out and let our voices be heard. The numbers are on our side. We need to come out and vote for people that we want, that's going to move Africa to the next level, so that our kids don't have to travel kilometers just to survive. As we can see, these guys are scared, and they are running up and down doing everything possible to keep that hold on us. That shows that we are doing something right. That shows that a change is happening, and it makes me so proud. But we have to keep going. We cannot stop. We have a long way to go, yes, but we don't have to give up. We have to keep pushing. We have to keep going, because divided we're going to fall, but united we stand. The only way this plan is not going to work, what this guy is suggesting to recolonize Africa, is if we stay united. If we are united as a continent, if we are united as people of Africans, there's nothing that they can do. This is the video for today, guys. Don't forget to like this video. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below, and I'll see you guys in the next one. I'm out.